So our scaling journey was a little bit different than probably maybe any other roofing company
Yeah.
because of the model originally.
Yep.
So the original model was we were working with probably 7 or 8 of the 10 largest solar companies. We started in Arizona, and then one of our partners said, "Hey, will you go to Nevada for us? We have tons of roofs in Vegas, and we don't have a good roofer." And we said, "Okay, how many roofs you got?" "Oh, we got 15 roofs a month out there." "Sure, we'll be out there soon. Get our licenses in place."
Yep.
They're like, "Hey, can you go to California?" And so we were kind of staying, and then we went to New Mexico. We were kind of staying on the West Coast. And then either the second or third largest East Coast installer kind of heard our name and approached us and said, "Hey, hear what you guys are doing. We really want to, jump on board, and we want you guys to come build roofs for us on the East Coast." And so, and that's why we were able to kind of scale like that. And focus on quality because we had the benefit of I didn't have to drive sales. I didn't have to. We didn't
Mm,
have leads.
yep.
These companies, what I would do is I would go teach the solar sales rep who was selling solar, if it's how to identify a bad roof, and if it's a bad roof, then let's say it's a 20-year-old shingle roof, we would provide them a quote, and then the homeowner would buy the solar and the roof together. That solar company would then have us do the roof. So when you don't have to worry about sales, you don't have to worry about marketing. It allowed me to focus 100% on quality. And so
Mm,
if I was doing a traditional scale, I wouldn't have been able to scale as fast. But I think even though because what we're doing now is now we're a much more traditional roofing company because the solar industry has had a big pullback. We identified it back in October, so going on about 13-14 months now, that raising interest rates, just kind of the climate, we had to protect our business. And so we went from doing 90% of our revenue from solar partners in last year, which was first year we went from 5 million to 15 million in our second year, so pretty rapid growth there.
yeah. Yeah.
Continuous month over month and year over year growth. To then this year, coming into this year, we had to pivot our whole model, and this year we're now doing 90% of our revenue is just direct to consumer. Without sacrificing any of our revenue numbers. We'll do over 25 million this year, and probably in the middle of summer we'll be doing 3 million top line.
Yeah.
With some pretty ambitious goals. So that journey, our scaling was unique in the sense that when we opened a new market in New Jersey, it was because our partner said, "Hey, there's 20 roofs a month out there. Can you go out there?" I think it would be possible with other, kind of B2B relationships. You could do something similar, but that allowed me to be 100% focused on customer experience.
Mm,
And then I had developed the customer experience, systemized it, and now this year I can drive sales and drive revenue because we have systemized and standardized the customer experience across all of our locations.
so let's start with quality. You know, how are you, because you're in multiple, how many states are you in now?
Depending on how you count, like the Northeast, like we service Delaware, but we're not,
Got it.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
over 10, like maybe like 15 to,
Yeah.
depending on how
That's a
you count
lot
up
of,
that Northeast.
that's a large geographic area, right?
Yes.
And, man, there's, as business, like there's that touch it, feel it, be able to drive up to it, make sure that everything is being done right, right? Like, how do you do that? Like, how, for 10 states from the
Mhm.
and for people that don't know, I mean, most of it is the team in the Arizona office, right? Is the support there, and then you have a couple of people in each of the regions in those states, kind of doing
Yep.
that day to day stuff. So let's talk through that. How are you ensuring quality at scale?
Yeah. So, couple different things. One, anytime we went to open a new market, I told my partners, even when they were, saying, "Hey, I need it as soon as possible," I told them I would not open a market until I had the right general manager there. So that was the key for me is I needed a linchpin that I needed, like someone that I could trust 100%, and they take ownership of that market. And then, put in a series of checks and balances, leveraging technology like Company Cam, obviously using a CRM, and checking in updates. And doing things like closeout calls, checking in with customers at the end of the job and seeing what the experience was. You'll find the canaries in the coal mine. It will. It's what I call public accountability. If we're all asking the same questions, Well, as long as everybody's telling the truth, it's great. But if 4 people are all asking the homeowner, hey, how'd everything go? And only 3 people are here and it went bad. And the one guy on the ground saying, no, homeowner was happy. She baked me an apple pie. Obviously that's, not the case. Exactly. So that, it's trust, but verify. That's a key term, is that I trust my general managers, the boots on the ground to make the right decisions. But I'm going to verify as well through, photos, and what we do is we have both a project manager and a virtual project manager for every job. So somebody in Phoenix will be the virtual project manager, and they'll manage, 15, 20 jobs at a time. And their job consists of just sending text messages each day saying, day 2 of the build, we're 50% done, looking great. And you'll get things back. Yeah, everything's going smooth, but the crew showed up an hour and a half late today. No big deal. You guys have been awesome. Okay, so why'd the crew show up an hour and a half late? Is this a systemic problem? Was it just a flat tire? So you start getting that little bit of feedback. And if you're constantly checking in, just like if you're constantly checking in with your team members, your employees, you'll catch it before it becomes a massive problem, because you'll start just seeing the stuff on the margins. Like, nobody just goes from being awesome to not awesome overnight. It's usually kind of a progression of complacency, that they just get a little bit lazier, a little bit sloppier, a little bit whatever. And so if you have those, check-ins, that trust but verify on multiple stages, and clear expectations. That's the other thing is, part of the comp plan, part of the requirements for my general managers are things like 5-star reviews, no complaints, or, not no complaints. Obviously, you're always going to have some, but addressing them in a timely manner. And it's not just, I don't care if you do $500,000 in a month, if 250,000 of that are angry and they're sacrificing, the brand. So it's I think it's either Charlie Munger that says, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. And so if your incentive package for your leaders is not tied to the quality of outcome, it's just tied to revenue or profitability, that's all they drive. And then they'll sacrifice quality of install for revenue. Hey, we got to hit our numbers this month. Let's go build 10 roofs this week, even though we only have capacity for 8. And then you go pick up a random crew and then they do a bad install, and we've all been there before. So it's incentivizing the right things and making sure that they understand what's the primary focus and what's most important at the highest level.
That's awesome. I think there's so much left on the table in closeout calls. There are actually businesses that are built on a closeout call. So there's a service out there that people know about that, like, they built their whole business on calling your homeowners after the job is closed and asking a series of questions and then asking for a Google review. Like, that's a whole business, like multi-million-dollar business that just does that for contractors, right? Like, it's crazy. But I bet you listening don't do it. Right? Like,
and on that point, the biggest key to us being able to make this pivot from that one, to pivot a $15-20 million a year company in a year and not sacrifice revenue, because I changed my entire revenue funnel. The only way I was able to do that is because I had built up the brand equity over those first 2.5 years. When we made that pivot, I had over 300 5-star reviews. So when I needed to go to the public and say, hey, I'm ready to start selling roofs directly to you, I had the brand proof, the social proof, the good marketing, the good media, the good reviews to instantly turn that switch on, and people wanted to buy roofs from us. And we had built it up because people were buying roofs from us through a third person. We weren't selling these roofs originally. It was some solar guy telling the homeowner, hey, I use Reimagine Roofing. Look, they're really awesome. Look at their YouTube channel. Look at their reviews. So I had to build this whole business of selling ourselves without even being able to tell our own story, all through digital media. And so then when I made that pivot to being a direct consumer company, that was the key that unlocked it all. That's the secret sauce, is the brand equity, and it lives in the digital space in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I know I'm preaching to the choir, as the roof marketer. I'm sure this is music to hear you.